Our guest this morning on Omelette is Rod Mckuen, a man of many parts. He's a composer, he's a director, he's a singer, he's a poet, he's an author, and he's a writer. And the question that comes to mind, Rod, is not that you do so many things so well, but in plain language, what gave you the guts to try everything, to know that you could do them?
Well, I owe an awful lot to those people that said I couldn't do. And there's always somebody there to say you can't do this for a certain reason. And whenever somebody says that to me, I know damn well that that's the time to step in and try anyway.
Well, so many people find it difficult to succeed in one career, and if they do, they're very happy about it. But you're an A+ in maybe 5 or 6 categories.
Well, I feel that the only limitations we have are the ones, should be the ones we put upon ourselves. And I think it works for some people. I heard a marvelous interview with Katharine Hepburn on the Dick Cavett Show. It was one of my favorite shows to appear on. And because I like Dick and because he asks intelligent questions, I thought he brought the best out in her, and she certainly brought the best out in him. She allowed us how she felt she could only do one thing, and that was be an actress. I'm not so sure after hearing her. I mean, I think there are many things she could do, but I think for some people it works only to do one thing. But I had the benefit of very little formal education, and so nobody ever told me that you should train to do one thing and specialize in that. And so most of the people I admire or like do many things. I mean, if you talk about classical music and a man like Roy Harris, he was an insurance salesman. And if you talk about poetry and William Carlos Williams, he was a fine country doctor. You know, Michelangelo had 5 or 6 occupations.
How do you react to the fact that so many of your constituency, your followers, not solely, but a great percentage of them are young people? They're wild about you.
I would like to think that that I'm really just writing for people. I've never thought that I should write over people's heads or between their legs or around them or whatever. I feel that you should write in a direct, informative language. I mean, there are a lot of poets that feel they're writing poetry if nobody can understand it, and if you have to go to a 5-foot bookshelf to get the meaning of it. I'm proud of the fact that the tremendous acceptance I've had as far as sales go has helped, because really the publishers are only interested in dollars and cents, at least nowadays. I mean, the days of the fine old publishers, unfortunately, are going fast. And I've been able to, because of the sales of the poetry, open up the door for a lot of people who ordinarily wouldn't be published. And also the fact that my poetry is being taught in perhaps 3,500, I guess there are more, colleges and high schools and seminaries and universities. And so that accounts for what would appear to be a young following. But if you come to a concert, you'll find that it's made up of all kinds of people, of various colors and hopefully various political persuasions and ethnic backgrounds and whatever. I mean, I really like to think of myself as a poet for the people and of the people.
May I read you this? I did give you the courtesy of showing you this before. It's from a recent newspaper article. This is
You
a quote.
didn't give me.
I did not give you.
No, but that's all right. Go on. Because if I get surprised, if I suddenly show surprise, I don't want to.
It's not very shocking, but you may not have seen it. It says, Mckuen is today's poet for the masses. Critics have little good to say about either his poetry or his music, but the public loves him, as evidenced by the millions of copies that have been sold of both his books of poetry and his recordings.
Well, I must tell you that is a rather sweeping generalization. I got myself a clipping service just to find out what people were saying. Among others, and it's in a book somewhere, Ogden Nash called me the finest young poet in America today.
And you've sold more. Your poetry has probably been read by more people than any other poet in the world.
Well, that's what they say. I don't know. You know, I mean, I just don't know.
Well,
I mean, if it's true, that's fine.
What I like very much, you seem to have as your theme song, love. You call yourself a romantic.
Well, I do, but I'd like to get back to those charges that you hit me with and said you had the courtesy of showing me before, which you didn't. But I wouldn't have minded doing it because I'm very adamant about that. For instance, I'll tell you how irresponsible the press can be sometimes. Who wrote this, by the way?
It's unsigned.
Courier, Journal Times, and yeah, it's unsigned figures. I at one point went 18 months without giving out any interviews, and during that time, more than 50 alleged person-to-person interviews came out in magazines and newspapers. Bobby Dylan had the same problem when he was in a very serious motorcycle accident. I think that and as far as my music being criticized, I don't know. You know, I've been nominated for an Academy Award twice out of 5 film scores. I've done only one television score that's been shown, and I was nominated for an Emmy for that. And you're nominated by your peers. I have been, called by Mancini and by Elmer Bernstein, one of the finest composers. The CBC, in reviewing the new work I did for the Edmonton Symphony, said that the Ballad of Distances, which was the work, now places me alongside Copland and Charles Ives and Lucas Foss among America's most important classical composers. So, I mean, to say that critics in general have very bad things to say, I note that many critics are themselves poets who don't sell. And I would suspect there might be a little bit of, backbiting. But as far as being called a romantic poet, I like that. I mean, I think that there's far too little romance in our lives, where everything is brittle around us. There's so much noise around us, and there's so much people hating one another that I don't mind the idea of somebody saying that I'm romantic. The city is frankly a romantic work, but I don't mind that at all.
That was very good of you to dedicate your new work, The City, to Jorge Mester, our conductor.
Well, I did it because, I'm a fan. I mean, I've heard things he's done, never on a face-to-face basis, but through the Louisville Recording Society, and I just think he's absolutely marvelous. Upstairs now, I was listening to this cello concerto, which is one of the latest releases, and he's an incredible conductor, and of course, watching him conduct and being part of this is a very exciting.
He's a very good instrumentalist too. Very good.
Well, that I didn't know.
Right. How would you like to be remembered? Now, I think you're too young for me to ask you that question.
It's presumptuous of me, I think, to say, but I would like to think that on my tombstone, I would love it to say I tried. I mean, I've tried all my life, at least since I've been conscious of the fact. I've tried very hard to, in a world of alienation, I've tried to get back to one-to-one communication. Although, because I work so hard, I work 18 hours a day, I guess, minimum sometimes, and it's very hard for me to sustain lasting relationships as well. But I've said, and I say it at the end of all of my concerts, it doesn't matter who you love or how you love, but that you love. For in the end, the act of loving any man is the act of loving God. And I think that if you're not loving or not caring about something pretty passionately, you're only half alive. I really believe that.
That's a wonderful apostrophe and a great valedictory to our interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I tried. It's a great epitaph.
I don't mind your reading that nonsense at all.
Rod Mckuen, our guest on Omelette, a great modern Renaissance man. We'll be back with more of our show in just a minute.